What's going on, first grade? Mr. Centron back here with you to teach you guys another math lesson. I hope everybody's well and I hope everybody's healthy, especially with what's going on in our country. If you're watching this video, I want you to know that I care about you and that I love you, and all your teachers at Up Academy Dorchester feel exactly the same, and we want what's best for you. You matter, your life matters, my life matters, all Black lives matter. The best thing we can do right now is to continue our education and try to live the best life for ourselves. But not only for ourselves, but also in the service of others. All right, without any further ado, let's get into the lesson. We are still in our place value unit. We're going to be talking about something a little different from what we've been doing for the past month or so. Today we're going to be talking about comparing numbers. And when we compare numbers, we say whether a number is greater than or less than another number. Or we can say one number is the same as or equal to another number. We're going to get into all that right now. But first, here's what you're going to need. Here's our problem-solving task. It says, Miss Card and Miss Yoon were having a marble collecting contest. We see in Miss Yoon's jar, there's 269 marbles. And then in Miss Card's jar, there's 313 marbles. On the bottom, it says, Miss Yoon wrote this number sentence. It says 269 is greater than 313. So the way we read that number sentence on the bottom, that green symbol means greater than. So it says 269 is greater than 313. Now your job is to pause the video, maybe have me read it to you again, and then what you need to do is write a sentence explaining whether you agree or disagree with Miss Yoon's number sentence. Do you agree or disagree that 269 is greater than 313? Okay, pause the video and let's get to work. Okay, welcome back, guys. So, before we go over the problem solving task, I just want to talk about these three symbols, what they mean, and how we use them. So, this symbol here is called greater than. This symbol here is called less than. And this symbol here, as we all know, as we all should know, means equal. So we usually use these symbols to compare two different numbers. This symbol means greater than. So let's look at the example I used. And this is how I would read this number sentence. It's a number sentence, right? And just like you read a sentence of words, you can read a sentence of numbers. And that's exactly what this is. So just like I read a sentence of words, I read from left to right, I do the same thing with numbers. I go 5 is greater than, see how that's the same symbol? 5 is greater than 3. That's a true statement because 5 is more than 3. I have more fingers up for 5 than I have for 3, right? So 5 is greater than 3, so we know that's right. Check. Let's look at the less than symbol. This symbol means less than. So let's read this number sentence from left to right. It says 10 is less than, because that symbol means less than, 14. 10 is really less than 14. So this is a true statement. And then equal. We all know equal. Equal means the same as. So let's read this number sentence. 25 is equal to 25. Why? Because 25 is the same as 25. So check. So that's what these three symbols mean. Now, a really good way for me to remember what symbol to put in between two numbers I'm comparing is if they're not equal, right? When they're equal, we always know to put the equal sign. We've been doing the equal sign for a long time in first grade. We're pretty good as first grade mathematicians using the equal sign. We know all about the equal sign. So these two symbols, right? Sometimes it might be a little hard to decide which one to use. So here's a little trick. So I pretend that this symbol and this symbol are like alligator mouths, right? This is how we make an alligator mouth. I don't know if you ever made like a symbol or like a shadow of like a mouth, right? I don't know if you guys have. Maybe that's a little outdated. Maybe I'm too old, but right, this is an alligator mouth. Now the alligator always wants to eat the higher number. It always wants to eat the number with the most value. So if we look here, and that means, so if the alligator always wants to eat the number with the most value, that means his mouth is gonna be open to that number. So if we look here, 5 has more value than 3, so the alligator mouth is open to 5. Because it's gonna eat the 5, right? It doesn't want 3, because 3 is less. Let's look at the less than. Let's look down here. You see how, right, we flip that symbol around because now the alligator mouth wants to eat 14 because 14 is the number with more value than 10. And then the equal sign, right, it's not an alligator. We know the equal sign. We don't need a trick for that because it's the same thing. If this number is the same as this number, we put an equal sign. Okay, so I wanted to do that really quick to just explain these signs. Now let's get into going over the problem-solving task. So for the problem-solving task, remember, Miss Yoon wrote this number sentence, 269 is greater than 313. That's the number sentence she wrote comparing her marbles to Miss Card's marbles. Now, I'm gonna write this on another screen. So we see here, this is Miss Yoon's number sentence comparing her marbles, her amount of marbles to Miss Card's amount of marbles. And she said 269 is greater than 313. It was our job to figure out whether we agreed or disagreed with Miss Yoon's number sentence. So let's figure this out. So looking at this number sentence, this is telling me that 269 has more value or is greater than 313. I know that Miss Yoon wrote this sign to say that 269 is more than 313. So let's figure that out. Let's see if Miss Yoon is correct. Now there's two ways we can go about this. There's two ways or two strategies we can use to see which number has more value, because that's what we're trying to figure out. Which number has the higher value? So let's do that. Let's see. So we have 269, 313. So something I think that's a good idea when we compare numbers is to draw them in base 10 form. Why? We can draw these numbers in base 10 form just so we can see them in a different way. So let's do that. First, let me label my place values. So we have the hundreds, tens, ones, hundreds, tens, ones. Okay. So I see I have 200s for 269. I have 1, 2. I have 6 tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I have 9 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let's look at 313. I see that I have 300s. 1, 2, 3, I have 1 10, then I have 3 ones. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I've written both numbers in base 10 form. And here's what I notice. I notice that this number has more hundreds than that number, right? Because we have 300s here and we have 200s here. I also notice that this number has less tens than this number. This has 1 10, this has 6 tens. I also notice that this number has more ones than this number. Okay? So those are the 3 things I noticed. I'm gonna tell you, I disagree with Miss Yoon. I think that 269 is not greater than 313. I think 269 is less than 313. Why? Let me tell you. So, when we compare 2 numbers, we look at the highest place value first. So, in these 2 numbers, the highest place value is the hundreds place, right? Our place values are the hundreds place, the tens place, and the ones place. The hundreds place holds the most value. Why? Because if I had 100 and 1, which one is more? 100, right? 100 is more than a 1. So we look at the hundreds first. And when we look at the hundreds first, we compare who has more hundreds. Oh, 313 has more hundreds than 269, right? There's 300s here, there's 200s there. So that tells me that 313 is greater than 269. So what I can do is, I can write it like this. 313 is greater than 269. So that's why I disagree with Miss Yoon, because 313 has more hundreds than 269. So again, I'm gonna say when you compare 2 different numbers, you look at the highest place value first. In this case, on this problem, the hundreds place is the highest place value. So we compare, there's a 3 here, there's a 2 here. 3 is greater than 2, 300 is greater than 200, so that means 313 is greater than 269. All right, let's stick around for the practice problems. Okay, welcome to the practice problems. Here, what I want you to do is to compare these 6 different group or pairs of numbers. So we have 163, 319, 393, 297, right? And we're gonna go and you're gonna, in this circle, you're gonna put the greater than, the less than, or the equal sign, right? So remember, that alligator mouth is gonna have to be open to the biggest number, right? So that's how you would remember whether to write the symbol this way or the symbol that way, right? You want the mouth to be open to the number with the highest value. So just one hint. So one thing you can do that can help you out is to label your place values. It's very important to do that. So what I mean by that is you label your hundreds, your tens, and your ones. Hundreds, tens, ones. And you do that for every single number. Just like that. This will help you be able to draw the number in base 10 form, and it will also help you to see or help you compare the numbers in each place value. All right, pause the video and get started. Okay, I hope you guys worked really hard on your practice problems. Let's go over them. let's start with this one over here. So we have 163 is blank 319. So we want to figure out if 163 is greater than, if it's less than, or if it's equal to 319. Let's figure that out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the hundreds place. Why am I going to look at the hundreds place? I'm looking at the hundreds place because that's the largest, or that's the highest place value in each of these numbers. So this is the hundreds place in 163, and this is the hundred place in 319. So when I look, I see that there's a 3 here, and there's a 1 here. So that lets me know that there's more hundreds in 319 than there is in 163. So that lets me know that 319 is greater than 163. So that lets me know that 163 is less than 319. Why? Because 163 has less hundreds than 319. So I'm going to fill that in with the less than sign, which is like that. How do I know that's the less than sign? Because the alligator mouth is biting, or is going to eat the bigger number, which is 319. Now, just to show you in base 10 form what this looks like, right? So we have 163. There's 100. There's 6 tens. 4, 5, 6, and then there's 3 ones. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's draw 319. There's 3 hundreds. 1, 2, 3. There's 1 10, and then there's 9 ones. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so just like I said, right? We start with the biggest place value, which is the hundreds place. Let's look at the hundreds, and then we compare. There's 1 here, there's 3 here. That tells me that this number is greater than this number. 319 is greater than 163. Or, like we wrote here, 163 is less than 319. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So we have 393 is blank 297. So again, what do? We look at the hundreds place. Why? Because we start with the largest place value, which is the hundreds place, and then we compare. So there's a 3 in the hundreds place here, there's a 2 in the hundreds place here. What number has more value? 3. So that means that 393 is greater than, right? The mouth is eating the bigger number than 297. Okay, let's move on. We see here 124 is blank 524. Now, let's look at the hundreds place. Why? Because the hundreds place is the largest place value. We look at the hundreds place in each number, and then we compare. There's a 1 here in the hundreds place. There's a 5 here in the hundreds place. So this number is 524. This number is 124. What has more value? 500s is more than 100. So we say 124 is less than 524. Where's the alligator mouth open to? The bigger number. Next, 282 is blank 110. We start with the largest place value, the hundreds. Let's look at the hundreds. There's a 2 here, there's a 1 here. I know that 2 is greater than 1. I know that 200s is more than 100. So we say 282 is greater than 110. Notice again in the symbol, the alligator is eating, right? Eating the bigger number. All right, let's look down here. We have 148, we have 312, right? I've said this 4 times already, at least. We start with the hundreds place. Why? Why do we look at the hundreds place? Because it's the largest place value. That's what we look at first to compare numbers. So we see there's a one in this number in the hundreds place. There's a 3 in this number in the hundreds place. I know that 3, or I know that 1 is less than 3. I know that 100 is less than 300. So we say that this number 148 is less than 312. Again, look at the mouth, open to the bigger number. That's how we know what symbol to make. Last but not least, 227 is blank 141. We look at the hundreds place because it's the largest place value, and that's what we start with first when we're comparing numbers. There's a 2 in the hundreds place here, there's a 1 in the hundreds place here. 2 is greater than 1, 200 is greater than 100. So we say 227 is greater than 141. Okay, so this was the only set of practice problems that we're going to do. The overall point of this lesson, and what I wanted everyone to get out of it, is that when we compare 2 numbers, you start by looking at the largest place value first. The largest place value in 3-digit numbers is the hundreds place. So you always look at the largest place value. The hundreds place in this case, and you compare 200, 100. We all know that 200 is more than 100. That's how we know, and that's how we compare numbers to say what number is less than, or what number is greater than. I hope you guys walk away knowing that. I hope everybody sticks around for the final word when we come back. First grade, on behalf of Miss FJ, Miss Glassy, we love you, we miss you. Can't wait to the day where we're all together again, live and in person. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, do good to others, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.